over 30 foster care placements. It's hard to even wrap your head around a number like that.
Yeah,
But that's the reality we're facing as we dive into Kyle Bigelow's story today.
right.
To say his childhood was rough is a massive understatement.
Absolutely. And I think what's so unique about this deep dive is we have Kyle's firsthand account of his
Yeah.
experiences, so we're getting it straight from the source.
Okay. It's a story of resilience
Resilience.
against really incredible odds,
Yeah.
the kind that makes you rethink what's possible.
Well, it's a story of incredible resilience, to say the least. So we're going to unpack the events of his life.
Okay.
Everything from his childhood to his success later in life in the tech world to see what we can learn about, facing challenges and creating a brighter future.
We're going to try and unpack how a lifetime of trauma, really starting even before birth, shaped his journey.
You're absolutely right. It's not just a matter of listing the terrible things that happen. It's more about understanding the weight of those experiences, how they all build upon each other.
Right, the cumulative impact.
Exactly. And in Kyle's case, even before he was born, there were already these forces working against him. Prenatal exposure to crack cocaine.
Now, hold on. For those of us who might not be familiar with that term, what exactly does that mean?
Sure. So prenatal exposure in this context means that while Kyle was still in his mother's womb, he was exposed to crack cocaine. And that can have a significant impact on a child's development, really affecting everything from, their physical health to their cognitive abilities.
Right away, there are a bunch of red flags.
Right.
Prenatal exposure to crack cocaine, losing his grandmother and his father, all before he even turns 2.
Oh, wow.
Just layer upon layer of loss. I mean, imagine escaping not 1, not 2, but 3 near-death experiences before you even turn 5 years old.
Wow.
And,
When Kyle was just a baby, his mother took him to sleep at a different location one night.
okay,
Just a random decision. And as it turned out, that decision saved his life. Because that night, their house was targeted in a drive-by shooting, and his crib riddled with bullet holes.
that's chilling.
It is. And you think about the impact on the mother, the terror she must have felt.
Yeah.
And even though Kyle was just a baby, I mean, how can that not affect you on some level? If he had been there that night, we might not even be having this conversation.
It's terrifying how close he came to losing his life multiple times.
At age 3, he almost drowned after falling into a pond. And then at 4, he drank Pine Sol and needed his stomach pumped.
Pine Sol, oh my goodness.
Yeah, can you imagine being so thirsty, so desperate for something to drink, that you reach for a bottle of cleaning product? It's just heartbreaking. I think that detail really kind of underscores the level of neglect that Kyle was experiencing at home. A 4-year-old doesn't accidentally drink Pine Sol if there's proper supervision and care being provided. It's just this heartbreaking example of how a child's basic needs can just be totally overlooked in a chaotic and unstable environment.
Yeah, it's a really sobering thought.
And it doesn't get any better.
Okay, so then around age 5, he moves in with his mother and her boyfriend.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. They end up getting married, but the domestic violence is constant.
Ugh. Imagine growing up in an environment where aggression is the primary way to deal with problems. It can have a profound impact on their own behavior and their relationships as they get older.
It's hard to even wrap your mind around it. One scene that really stuck with me was the description of Kyle witnessing his stepfather getting injured during this fight with his mother. The stepfather's arm was badly cut, and the image the author paints is pretty vivid.
Oh, wow.
It's a stark reminder of that raw, unpredictable violence that was a constant presence in Kyle's young life.
Right, and we have to remember these weren't just isolated incidents. They were part of this larger pattern of trauma that was really shaping Kyle's reality. Imagine being 5 years old and witnessing the adults who are supposed to protect you, the people you depend on, engaging in these violent outbursts. It creates this sense of constant threat, of unpredictability.
Right, like the world is just a minefield of potential danger.
Exactly. And home, which should be a safe haven, becomes a battleground. And beyond that, his mother was involved in prostitution,
Wow.
maybe even sex trafficking, and this was happening right in their home while he was there.
So it wasn't just witnessing violence. He was basically living in a world where criminal behavior was just normal. That's where it crosses the line.
Yeah.
It goes from a difficult family situation to something much darker.
Yeah.
To think a child is witnessing that level of exploitation.
Yeah.
It's hard to even comprehend the impact.
It completely distorts a child's understanding of healthy relationships, boundaries, what's considered normal behavior. It plants these seeds of dysfunction that can take years to unravel. And for Kyle, this was his everyday life.
It's like with each traumatic event, something gets chipped away.
Mhm.
His sense of innocence, of safety, of security, all chipped away. And as we'll see, this is really just the beginning. Kyle's around 7 years old. His mom and stepfather, they split up, and her drug use spirals out of control.
Oh, man.
You know, there's that one detail in Kyle's story that really stuck with me, that he would literally call his mother's number for hours,
Oh, wow.
just waiting for her to pick up.
Desperately wanting that connection,
Oh,
even
I-
when he was being neglected.
There's this one moment that really struck me. Kyle finds his mother's drug paraphernalia, and he destroys it,
Oh, wow.
trying to protect himself and his sister.
Yeah,
It's an act of defiance, but it's also incredibly sad.
it really is.
A child taking on the responsibility that should belong to the adults.
Right. That act, as small as it might seem, it says so much about the burden he was carrying, the awareness of the situation, understanding that his mother's addiction was a danger to them all.
At 8 years old.
That's a heavy weight to bear.
It's scary how these early experiences just shape a person.
Yeah.
So there were some attempts to intervene. You know, social workers got involved. Neighbors tried to help out with food and stuff.
That's good. At least somebody was trying.
Yeah, but it seems like his mother was really good at working this system.
Also, she knew how to play the game.
Exactly. Making it really tough for anyone to help.
There's an account of his mother escaping through a window while the police were trying to arrest her.
Oh, wow.
Police officers slipping on ice, helicopters overhead.
That's chaotic.
What a chaotic and terrifying experience for a young child.
It must have felt like his whole world was falling apart.
For most people, this would be entertainment, but for Kyle, this was real life.
His normal.
Exactly.
And that reality, it was about to change again in a big way.
It's at this point that another chapter of trauma begins, his journey through the foster care system.
We've talked about the instability at home, but now it's amplified, bouncing from one placement to another.
Constantly facing the unknown.
Yeah.
Imagine that emotional toll. Each placement, however temporary, it represents a chance for connection, for stability,
Right.
maybe even love. And then, just as he starts to adapt to build some trust, he's uprooted, sent somewhere new.
It's a cycle of hope and disappointment.
Over and over. And it can leave a child feeling completely lost, alone.
And those placements, they weren't always safe havens either.
No.
There's an incident where Kyle hides from his social worker, desperate to stay with his best friend's family.
Just clinging to that familiarity.
It speaks to that deep need for connection, for somewhere to belong.
That longing for belonging is so fundamental, you know? And for a child who's experienced this much rejection, it's even more profound. But the system, it's often overwhelmed, under-resourced.
Not equipped to deal with those needs.
Exactly. And then there's a period where he's actually placed in juvenile detention, simply because there's nowhere else for him to go.
Oh, wow.
It's a stark reminder of how the system can actually re-traumatize these children.
Yeah. Sending the message that they're a problem to be solved.
Not an individual deserving of care.
Of compassion. It's a terrible irony. A system that's meant to protect vulnerable children.
Becoming another source of trauma.
Another obstacle to healing. And as Kyle gets older, those placements continue. Each one temporary. He lives with different relatives, group homes, even with his older sister for a bit.
But that pattern of instability, it remains.
Casting a shadow over his entire adolescence.
It's like he's carrying this invisible weight. All that trauma, it colors every experience, every interaction.
Makes it hard to trust.
To form attachment.
To believe that you deserve anything good.
Right. And the sources mention over 30 placements in total.
It's hard to imagine the emotional toll. It makes you wonder what could have been different, you know? If he'd had that consistent support, stability, if he'd encountered more adults who saw his potential, who nurtured his strengths.
It's a haunting question, and one that doesn't have an easy answer. But I think it speaks to the need for a more compassionate approach, trauma-informed care,
Recognizing the impact of those early experiences.
prioritizing healing and connection, above all else.
It's heavy stuff, and we've only scratched the surface here. But it's important to acknowledge the weight of it.
The sheer number of placements is staggering.
It's a tragic irony. The system that was supposed to provide stability ended up perpetuating the instability he'd already experienced. He faced neglect, abuse, and isolation in many of these placements.
And yet, even amidst all this chaos, there were glimmers of brilliance shining through.
There were?
This is where Kyle's story takes an even more remarkable turn.
Okay.
Despite his chaotic upbringing, he excelled academically from a very young age.
Wow.
The source material mentions that he was already advanced in reading and writing in elementary school.
That's amazing.
And get this, his writing was so good that it was even published in a book when he was just a kid.
Wow. Talk about potential.
Right. Talk about potential waiting to be unleashed.
Yeah.
It's almost like a flower pushing up through cracks in the pavement, defying the odds to bloom. It really makes you wonder what he could have achieved if he'd been given the right support and opportunities from the start.
It's a powerful question, and one we'll explore further as we dive deeper into Kyle's journey. But, as you might imagine, those early traumas, they eventually took their toll. In his teenage years, he started to exhibit behavioral problems.
That's right. He became involved in gang activity and even had some run-ins with the law, including charges for theft and weapons possession.
It's a tragic but sadly predictable outcome when you consider the environment he grew up in. The lack of stable attachments, the exposure to violence and crime. These things can leave deep scars that impact a child's development and behavior. It seemed like he was caught in a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it almost felt like he was destined to become a statistic. But then, at the age of 17, something incredible happened. He found faith and made the decision to leave the streets behind.
Okay, so that's got to be a turning point for him, right? Like a light at the end of the tunnel.
You would think so, but it's important to remember that faith doesn't erase the pain.
Yeah.
The trauma doesn't just disappear overnight.
Okay.
It's not a quick fix.
Right, so even with this newfound faith, the journey wasn't easy.
Not at all. And I think that's really important to understand. That nuance is what makes his story so powerful.
Yeah, it's not a simple before and after.
Nope, not at all.
Like, how did that trauma still show up in his life, even as he was, trying to turn things around?
Well, I mean, think about it. He's still living in a world that feels dangerous.
Yeah.
Not long after he finds faith, he's actually threatened with firearms.
Nice.
Yeah, by people connected to his mother.
That sounds incredibly dangerous.
It was. Well, he received a call from his mother
Mhm.
claiming she was being held against her will
Oh, God.
by drug dealers.
Wow.
And she desperately needed money.
And so he went.
Yeah, so driven by that concern. For his mother's safety,
Right.
he went to the house where she was staying,
Yeah.
only to be ambushed by two men
2 men.
armed with guns.
Oh, my goodness.
One with an AK-47,
What an AK-47?
the other with a handgun. They
Goober.
aimed their weapons directly at him.
I can't imagine the fear he must have felt in that moment
He must have been terrified.
after everything he had already endured.
Yeah. It was only through the desperate pleas of his sister,
Oh, his sister was there.
who was also present,
Okay.
that they eventually lowered their guns.
That is so scary.
It is.
It's a stark reminder that the past can sometimes resurface in unexpected and dangerous ways.
Absolutely.
Even as Kyle was building a new life for himself,
Right.
he was still grappling with the consequences of his mother's choices.
It's that ripple effect we talked about.
Yeah.
This incident underscores the fact that healing from trauma isn't a simple or straightforward process.
It's not a straight line.
No, it's not a straight line.
Okay.
There will be setbacks.
Setbacks.
Moments where it feels like you're being pulled back
Into the darkness.
into that darkness.
Right.
But true resilience lies in the ability to navigate those challenges.
Right.
To keep moving forward despite the fear and the pain.
And that's precisely what Kyle did,
he did.
despite these setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So he's dealing with all that internally.
Yeah.
And still manages to, graduate high school,
Mm-hmm.
work full-time, get his associate's degree, build a career in software engineering.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
To accomplish all that with, everything he had going on.
Yeah, it really makes you think about, what resilience really means.
It's not about forgetting the past.
Yeah.
It's about learning to live with it. We'll definitely want to dive deeper into that turning point and explore the role that faith and community played in his transformation. It's a testament to the human spirit's ability to find hope and change direction, even in the darkest of times. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. Join us for part 2, where we'll look into Kyle's life after he left the streets behind.
We often talk about resilience in the face of adversity,
Right.
and Kyle's early life definitely exemplifies that.
It does.
But it's important to remember that his story isn't just about surviving hardship.
Yeah.
It's about excelling in a competitive field like technology.
That's a great point. We left off with Kyle deciding to leave the streets behind at 17.
Right.
He found faith, finished high school, even started taking some college courses, but He didn't come from privilege or connections.
Right.
So how did he go from that to becoming a senior software engineer, specializing in some of the most sought-after skills in tech?
It really is.
It's mind-boggling.
Let's rewind a bit and look at those early work experiences. He started out in the food service industry, then transitioned to hospitality.
Yeah.
Those are tough fields. Long hours, demanding customers.
Exactly. And while those jobs might seem unrelated to his success in tech, I bet those experiences shaped his work ethic,
Oh, yeah,
his people skills, his ability to handle pressure.
absolutely. You
Yeah.
can't teach that stuff in a classroom.
Right. You learn by doing,
Exactly.
by dealing with real-world challenges.
I couldn't agree more. Those experiences likely laid the groundwork for his success later on.
Yeah.
And speaking of his journey into tech, the source material mentions he switched his college major to network systems administration.
That's right. What sparked that change, I wonder? Was there a person or an event that inspired him? Or was it just realizing that his talents were better suited for technology?
Right.
Whatever the catalyst, it's clear he had a natural aptitude for it. Remember how he was advanced in reading and writing as a child?
Absolutely. It seems those abilities were always there, just waiting for the right environment to flourish. And once he focused his energy on tech, things took off. He landed a contract position at a Fortune 500 insurance company.
Talk about a game changer.
Huge step.
Not only did he get his foot in the door, but he also managed to finish his associate degree with honors while working full-time.
Wow.
That's dedication.
That speaks volumes. He wasn't content to just get by. He was determined to excel,
Yeah.
to push himself further, and that ambition shows in his career. He didn't just stay in that role.
Right.
He kept climbing the ladder, taking on new challenges.
It's like he was on a mission to master every aspect of software engineering.
He was.
The source material says that over 6 years, he held a variety of roles,
Right.
each more demanding and technically sophisticated.
And this is where things get interesting.
Okay.
He didn't just learn the basics.
Right.
He dove into specialized areas like low-code development,
Oh, wow.
which involves building applications with minimal hand coding. Imagine creating complex software with less coding.
Yeah.
It's in high demand because it allows companies to develop software much faster.
So not only was he technically skilled,
Right.
but he was also strategically positioning himself within a rapidly evolving field.
He was thinking ahead,
Yeah.
anticipating the needs of the industry.
No wonder he was so successful. Like he had a compass guiding him towards the most cutting-edge areas.
Precisely. And then there's Python,
Oh, yeah.
a powerful language used for everything from web development to AI. Mastering Python is like adding a Swiss Army knife to your toolkit. It's so versatile.
It's amazing how he kept adding these skills to his repertoire. Like he was building this tech superpower, one skill at a time. And he didn't stop there. He went deeper into data,
He did.
learning about natural language processing, or NLP.
Now, NLP is a game changer. It's the tech behind things like chatbots,
Yeah.
virtual assistants that can understand human language. Ever interacted with a chatbot and been amazed by how human-like it seemed?
It's pretty mind-blowing.
That's NLP.
The ability to analyze and process vast amounts of text is revolutionizing how we interact with technology.
It is.
And Kyle was at the forefront. But wait, there's more.
Oh, okay.
He also specialized in data visualization,
Oh,
turning complex data into easy-to-understand charts and graphs.
that's critical for communicating insights.
Right.
Think of it like storytelling with data, taking something abstract and making it accessible.
It's incredible how he mastered so many aspects of data.
It is.
From analyzing it, to processing it, to visualizing it. He was like a one-man data.
Symphony. I love that.
But the most impressive part is yet to come. He also dove into deep learning.
Deep learning.
Wow.
A subfield of AI that involves training artificial neural networks
Okay.
to perform complex tasks.
So deep learning is like giving computers a brain.
Yeah.
It lets them learn and adapt in ways that were impossible before.
It's the cutting edge.
Self-driving cars, personalized medicine, even advanced medical diagnosis. It's shaping the future.
And Kyle had the foresight to recognize its potential early on.
He did.
So to recap, he went from flipping burgers and checking guests into hotels to mastering Python,
Right.
building low-code applications, analyzing data, visualizing insights,
Yeah.
and training artificial neural networks.
It's incredible.
It's an incredible trajectory, even without considering his background.
It's mind-boggling how he acquired such an advanced skill set.
I know.
And remember, he was doing all of this while being a young father and working full-time.
Right.
It's like he was living multiple lives, each demanding incredible focus.
It makes you wonder how he fit it all in.
Where did he find the time and energy?
Right.
And how did he stay motivated through all the challenges? While we've delved into the many challenges Kyle faced,
Right.
we can't overlook his extraordinary triumphs.
He really did try it.
His resilience, his ability to not just survive, but to thrive. It's inspiring.
So inspiring.
He could have easily succumbed to the weight of his experience, become another statistic.
He really could have.
But he made a conscious choice to break the cycle,
He did.
to choose hope and healing.
And he created a brighter future,
He did.
not just for himself, but for his daughter,
His daughter.
for generations to come.
It's powerful.
It really is.
It's a testament to the power of the human spirit
Yes.
to overcome adversity and redefine what's possible.
And he really challenges our perception of what success looks like. It's not just about material wealth or career achievements.
Right.
It's about using your experiences to uplift yourself and those around you.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately the heart of Kyle's story. This speaks volumes about the human capacity for growth and transformation.
For sure.
It demonstrates the power of choosing hope over despair,
Yes.
of channeling past pain into positive action.
It's almost as if he took all the fractured pieces of his life
Yeah,
and forged something strong and beautiful out of them.
he did.
This completely reframes the idea of success.
What do you mean?
It's not just about material wealth
Right.
or career achievements.
It's about something more.
It's about using your experiences to uplift yourself and others.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Kyle's story is a testament to the idea that our experiences,
Even the painful ones.
even the most painful ones, can become sources of strength and inspiration.
Right.
It's about finding purpose and meaning in the face of adversity
Right.
and using your journey to illuminate the path for others.
It's just amazing to me that after everything he went through, there's no bitterness in his story.
Yeah.
It's all about compassion, wanting to stop other people from feeling that pain.
He forgave the people who hurt him, and I think he forgave himself too.
That's a tough thing to do, but it's so important.
It really is. And it freed him to do amazing things.
Kyle's story, it's been a tough one to hear,
Yeah, definitely some heavy stuff.
but it's also incredibly inspiring. You know, it reminds us that even in the darkest times, there's always hope, and that each of us has the power to change things for the better.
So true.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the life of Kyle Bigelow. It's a story that will stay with me for a long time, and I hope it inspires you to keep searching for the light in your own life and to keep making the world a better place, one small act of kindness at a time.
Hello, my name's Kyle Bigelow, and I'm very excited that Lad Lake is going to be receiving a $10,000 grant to assist the youth of Milwaukee.
Put my trust in no one. Can't wait to put my gang on. Hold on. Took us so long. They looking at me like something wrong. I've been wondering sometimes why I waited so long. If I lose it all today, no one to fall on. If I lost it all today, who could I call on? I've been waiting so long.